reason, and no one knows why. Anyway, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the VividChim Podcast. My name is Kane Hawking, and joining me this week, my wonderful guest on the 1 week where everything goes wrong, which kind of sucks. We have games journalist, host of Gamer Redefined, and also I believe you're one of the chosen content creators for 990wbob.com now. I believe I pronounced that correctly. I don't know the official role title, but there we go. Greg Ballard for Gamer Redefined. Greg, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Doing great. It's awesome to be here. I think you're an awesome creator, and I love your stuff. So it's just cool to be on your show.
Thank you so much. Well, you were one of the first names we came up with when I was pitching this show to Nomad and Lepley, who were guests 1 and 2 respectively. So you were one of the first names we came up with. We definitely wanted to get you on the show just because of the work you've been doing. So, for those who
thank you.
For those who might be unaware of who you are and might be trying to claw their way into the mess that is the start of this stream because Streamlabs, who are you and what do you do for those? Like, explain what you do in a bit more detail than what I have done, essentially.
Hey, everybody. My name is Greg Ballard, and I run, produce, edit, shoot, and write for the YouTube channel Gamer Redefined. We do news and everything on gaming and geek culture. We go all over the spectrum. We try to bring you tech. I do tech reviews. I do unboxings. I talk about betas, latest games, and we do a weekly newscast, as well as that same newscast is, he said, featured on a local Rhode Island radio station that's online called 990wbob.
Cool stuff. And just as a little thing, like, is there any areas in particular that you focus on more than others? There's certain, like, maybe types of gaming news that you prefer to report on. Like, for example, my area of gaming journalism is mostly reviews, whereas I know you're more of a general news channel. But is there any areas that you prefer to have come up, etc., or just seem to report more than anything else? Would you say?
Well, aside from just latest tech news and things like that, I really like to do first look. I really like to get invited to those betas and go through, play the game, get the footage, and just be like, hey, there's this game you read about. Oh, I got a chance to play it. I want to show it to you. I really like doing the first looks because I feel like I'm like a tour guide through a part of the museum that hasn't been built yet.
I always like first looks. They're always really entertaining to see. Although, sadly, due to what I do, I tend to try and stay away from them, so I get as blank slate approach as possible when it comes to reviewing games. Don't want to be influenced by other sources. So sadly, I can't enjoy them, but they're always amusing to see, especially when I know I'm not going to review that game, for example. So it's always nice to sit down and be like, what's the opinions on this approaching its launch?
A lot of times because it is beta, there's all sorts of weird glitches and funny stuff going on.
Oh yes, and that's always amusing. That's always amusing. Okay, the way this works, if you are new to the show, and if you are new to the show, you can catch up on episodes 1 and 2 by going to either the Twitch videos page. We have Lepley Plus's episode as well as Nomad Eric's episode there. You can also go to the VividChim YouTube page. Both of them are available there in video form, though if you want an audio only, which this is also available in, you can go to SoundCloud for episodes 1 and 2. That's soundcloud.com/VividChim. And now you can find us on Castbox, which is a free mobile app to listen to all your favorite podcasts. It's a great app. I use it all the time for things like Off Topic by Achievement Hunter and Critical Role. I listen to that pretty much all the time. Great stuff, free to use. And if you search VividChim on there, you can find the VC podcast and listen to episode 1 and 2 after this one is done. This will also be available there from now on. But yes, for those of you who are new, the way this works is we're going to discuss some news headlines and we're going to go into a game of Greg's choosing, and then after that we are going to end it off with a little bit of shilling, which is one of my favorite hobbies according to YouTube. We're going to shill something in our life that we find enjoyable before heading on to the wrap up of the show, where we'll just plug ourselves instead of things that we love doing. So jumping straight into the news, and we have to discuss probably the most recent news headline. So recent, in fact, that I had to change the news lineup that we were initially going to discuss and remove some stuff just to talk about this, and that is the Nintendo Switch Lite. This was just announced yesterday, I believe. And this is essentially a handheld-only Switch. This has been rumoured for quite a while now, I believe. This on a Switch Pro has kind of been on the cusp. A lot of people being like, will it, won't it? And apparently it will. And it's been met with mixed reaction. I'd say that's the best way of describing it. A somewhat mixed reaction. And the more I've read up on it, the more my reaction seems to be mixed as well. I don't know about you, Greg. What are your thoughts on the Switch Lite?
I'm all for all things portable. I like portable systems. One, because they're a huge home for indie games. So I do mobile. I do mobile games on my channel. I'm an iOS test flight guy. So, I'm cool with I want to take this with me. And the Switch was already, I'm gonna take this with me. So now I'm gonna take this with me farther.
I gotta take this with me, but now it's meant to be taken with me a lot more.
Yeah, before the other machine, the Switch, it switched from a console to a portable, and now it just switches on.
What do you think they should have actually called it now that it's technically not a Switch, because it doesn't switch from home console to handheld? What do you think? What do you think the actual name should? Is it just? It's like a Wii U and a DS had a child. You know what I mean? It's the Wii U tablet and a DS.
It would confuse. I mean, I guess they named it fine. It is the light version of it.
It is.
It's not any less. It's not any less performance.
Seemingly not. It seems to be some slight improvements actually.
Like smaller screen. The 5.5 screen gives it a better pixel. Gives it a better sharper, I guess, picture. It's still doing 720p. I guess we were talking about it earlier. We read that it's got 20 to 30% more battery.
Yes, something that Nintendo themselves haven't put out, but CNET reported on, I believe. Was that is the report that you found? In fact, I believe you sent that to me in the Discord, so we'll bring that up for you now. I've got the actual Nintendo advertisement shill pages on the matter, which is always the best place to look because that's where they're trying to lie through their teeth about their products, as all companies do. But there's very interesting things with the Switch, the actual comparison page, because they have a page aptly named "Which Nintendo Switch is right for you," where they compare both Switches and the features that the regular one has that the Lite doesn't. And I think this is where a lot of people have been like, I see why this might not be a thing now. So when I was looking at this page is kind of what turned me off the idea, because initially I was all for it. As a person, as a gamer, I know for a fact I would only play the Switch in handheld form, because I already have a PC, I already have my setup, and I barely like removing things and changing my setup as it is. So I don't really want to add a Switch to that occasion to try and do that and make it even more complicated than it already needs to be with that clusterfuck of wires that I call cable organization. But so I'd be playing it in handheld mode. But then I looked at it as a creator and I was like, as a creator, the Lite does not appeal to me at all, because it kind of removes the ease that I would have trying to create content using this damn thing because of its ability to be docked as a regular Switch. And it just doesn't have that.
Why do you suppose you can't take the Joy-Cons off? Do you think that it's because the main unit wouldn't have enough stability as just a screen?
I'm not sure. And that was the other main concern I had, because it doesn't have tabletop mode, which the one thing that I loved about the Switch more than anything is its versatility. It's a very versatile console, as we all know. It's like you can play it as a home console, you can play it as a tabletop console, and you can play it as a handheld. But one of my favorite things was the tabletop mode, where you could essentially just put it on a table at work or whatever, take off two Joy-Cons, maybe have them as one controller, or if you were playing a multiplayer game, pass the other controller to a friend, have a Joy-Con each, and just play a game. that's a fantastic idea in my opinion, and it's a shame that the Switch Lite hasn't really taken advantage of, arguably, in my opinion at least, the best idea that the Switch has had so far. You know what I mean? Yes, I can.
This is the Switch. This is the Switch selfish.
The Switch
you don't
selfish.
Want to play with other people.
Yeah, this is the Switch for people who don't want to play with others. Except I'm
going to be off somewhere in the park, but you can, as long as you don't have to play with them face to face.
Yeah, you can play with others like in the other Switch way, where you can like face each other and connect two Switches.
Yeah,
you just can't. You just can't be nice about it and give them a Joy-Con and be like, let's have a Joy-Con each and be friends. No, none of that.
No, if you don't have a Switch, I'm sorry, we can't talk.
Best thing about these Switches, in my opinion, is the colors. Very nice selection of colors. I really like the turquoise one. I'm a big fan of that turquoise one. It's a very nice color. They should have that on the regular Switch, in my opinion. That's really nice. The grey one is a nice shade of grey. Not too keen on the yellow, but it's still okay. It could be a good Pikachu edition when the Pokemon one. You cannot dock the Switch Lite to a TV. The Switch Lite is undockable because it's handheld only. But the regular Switch is still able to be docked, of course, because if they removed that would be very strange. So yeah, they said the 20% extra battery life. That's in the CNET report, correct?
Yep, the CNET. It's 20 to 30% better battery life because it's purely. They don't expect you to plug it in. They don't expect you to have it like in a like in your place. Like it's in the bag. It's charging, and then they expect you to go all day. They're not giving any hours.
Yeah, the Nintendo site gives the exact same description, essentially, as the original Switch, which, if that is the case and the CNET report is maybe inaccurate, or the information just hasn't come through right, which, who knows, it might be, it might not be, we aren't sure. That is a drastic oversight for a handheld-only Switch that can play the games like Breath of the Wild. If you're only using the handheld mode, you really need to be up in that battery life to really take advantage of that, because although 4-hour playtime sessions is pretty long for a handheld console, we all know what people are like. It will drain that son of a bitch. Especially when you have games like The Witcher 3 coming out as well. It will drain it. It's supposedly really interesting one.
What did they how they explain it? They said that it's the processor uses a different kind of power management system, and that's why it shrinks the previous. Okay, it's in that part of it that I read with the 20 to 30%, and I have right here. It's some kind of some kind of improved battery life. The Switch Lite uses a more efficient processor that enables smaller heat vents on top of the system.
Which sounds good, to be fair. I suppose they have to make up for it in some way. The biggest thing that really kind of interested me on this was the price. This is a lower priced system, as it should be. It does have less features. I don't believe we have a UK price yet, though I've seen it's like
$200. $200.
I'll see if I can bring it up on Amazon. I've seen a pre-order, but I think it's a fake pre-order. In fact, I'll check game.co.uk, which we'll get back to. Don't you worry about that. I believe I've seen the price of it for about 200 quid, because we always get marked up on shit for some reason. But
because it's telling me $200 American, so let's say.
Did they have?
I'll try to.
Yeah. Okay. So we're getting 199.99, so 200 quid. So that is 70 quid less than a Switch right now, a brand new Switch, which actually isn't a lot. If it was maybe £150, or even maybe £170, so £100 off a Switch, that would be pretty good. America get a much better deal with this. It's
cost us $200. It's $100 off, but it's not that. It's still not that incredible. Like, let's say I wanted to get a Switch, but I wasn't sure, and price was a wall, right? price. I was like, oh well, I'm not going to pay that much for something I'm going to play like 5 games on,
Yeah.
or I have I have a PC that plays games. I have a console. What am I doing, right? So I look at the light version. Oh well, maybe I can just sort of play a few of those indie games I wanted to play, and some of those RPGs, Octopath Traveler, stuff like that. Maybe I want to check that out. It's only $100 less. If I just wait one more
Yeah.
paycheck and just get a Switch,
That's the weird thing about it. It's like maybe if you have multiple kids, maybe and like the younger kids, maybe that's where it can come in a bit handier. So it's but at the same time, it's like if I wanted to buy a Switch, just a brand new standard regular Switch, it's £270 here, British pounds. For £30 less, I can get a PlayStation 4 with a game. If I wanted a game with the Switch, you're looking upwards of £300, and that's still a lot, and you can buy pre-owned Switches, but honestly they aren't that much cheaper here, and we'll get as to why they aren't much cheaper here. A little bit later on, we have a new story regarding one of the largest game distributors here in the UK. Very interesting one, that is. But it could be a good thing if you don't want to invest in a full Switch, maybe only want the handheld mode. There's a lot of little things where it's like, I want this specific thing at this specific time for this specific price. It could be a good deal. Who knows? You might want to switch it up a little bit. Play handheld only with your mates. Go around playing Tetris 99 Battle Royales. And if you don't want to play it on the Switch, you can now play Tetris with your mind. Greg, the hell's going on with this?
Wolverine, bring me a cheese pizza.
I was gonna
say we're having
some like Jean Grey stuff going on here. What's
the future's here. The future of video games.
Yeah, we're getting some Professor XT spins. What's happening here? Why can you play Tetris with your mind, and how?
Well, supposedly, in the Journal of Scientific Reports, there was a study done using a platform called BrainNet.
Yes.
Now, BrainNet allows people to send signals over the internet to a receiver brain to brain. It is a brain to brain network. Now, I know it already sounds like science fiction, and I know you guys want me to explain because you're like, what the hell are you talking about? This is real. There was a study done. You had two senders and you had one receiver, and they're all playing this Tetris-like game. They're all hooked up. They got things on their heads. It's Black Mirror, kids. We're there.
This is something out of Black Mirror, like directly out of Black Mirror.
Now, the way it works is that the senders see the game, they see the puzzle piece, and then they have to decide if it should be rotated or not. So they stare at an LED light. An LED light flashed 18 times on yes and 13 times on no. The number of times flashing dictated what synapse was going to get sent. So when the person, depending on what they stared at more, the person on the other side would get flashing lights, or the receiver would get flashing lights in front of their eyes if the answer was yes, and they'd get no flashing lights if they were no. And it's crazy because it sounds like, oh well, it's electric impulses and light impulses, but there has been a lot of research on how we can use light to move information, things like that. Quantum entanglement communication, things like that. The two atoms vibrating at once on both sides of the earth. That experiment that happened, we're getting closer to it. What's
much
cool
smarter people than myself.
What's really cool about by the way, you guys, I'm a hardcore player of that series about the different cities. It used a lot of quantum mechanics. It was oh my god, I'm blanking on it because I'm going through this, but it was the Undersea City and the City Olympia in the air, Columbia. BioShock. The BioShock series is huge on fringe science or quantum mechanics, and I'm just a big nerd for it. They were right 81% of the time. They solved the puzzle 81. 13 out of 16 trials were successful.
I would like to see this developed into something for people who maybe have disabilities and can't play games. That was my first thing when reading this. I was like, this would be really cool for people who maybe can't play games like we play games. There's a great charity. It's called Special Effect. I believe they're in America as well. They're mainly in the UK from all I can gather, but I believe they're like kind of responsible for the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which is, in my opinion, the best thing to come out of gaming in the last 20 years.
I love the adaptive controller.
I've got a chance to use it. It's very cool. Those guys are awesome. They do a bunch of stuff, working on eye tracking and all these different tools to make people play games easier who potentially can't usually. And just seeing stuff like this, I was like, I would love to like push this and see how far this could go in like opening up maybe new kinds of games for people, like potentially even more complex games. I would love to see some like how far this can go with stuff like, I don't know, maybe even like a first-person shooter game or like a first-person like maze puzzle game. I'd love to see something a bit more complex.
It would eliminate. Yeah, I think it would eliminate lag. Your brain, the eye to your brain. That's like military.
There's some military.
I can't even imagine. Yeah, like I can't even imagine aiming and looking at the.
We had a bit of a weird jump there. Hang on, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of issues today for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. We'll try and get Greg back soon. We're having a few things, but yeah, this is something essentially which I would love to see a lot more of. Like just seeing this with things like shooters, things like puzzle games, I think it'd be absolutely incredible. Hello, Greg. You're back. There we go.
Hey, what's up? Sorry.
That was really
I don't know
weird.
if I was talking.
No, you just completely disappeared for
lag.
a second. Yeah, talking about lag, and then as if by magic. Yeah, this is why we need this mind tracking. It's to stop stuff like
in
this.
The present, if it was the future and we were brain netting, we would be sitting here like this on screen.
Yo, if I could stream this podcast to people,
and you'd hear the conversation.
It'd be pretty dope if I could just stream the podcast.
You would hear the conversation, but you'd see this.
Yeah,
it would be like you're watching it. Now my lips aren't moving. Nothing's happening.
It'd be a very unusual sight. But that's a Black Mirror episode for the future. But yeah, this is just crazy awesome science. Like, I love this. I think it's, as a person who loves seeing like developments of technology and science and is a fan of video games, just like thinking about the shit you could do with this is incredible. Just the amount of stuff like you could potentially use this for, and like from a pure entertainment standpoint to even like helping people, it would be absolutely incredible. Like another thing that came with it is like using something like this to help people who potentially can't speak to send a message without potentially using their hands to send a message. They can just think it and like it'll translate into some like a vocalization, kind of like a Stephen Hawking like translator, etc., etc. Having something like
faster
that,
with more, faster with no like memory buffer, or anything like that.
Having that kind of thing, like it would, if we like pushed stuff like this, the world would be a much more interesting place. And for good reason.
I was thinking when a doctor is operating on a patient, right? And it's got to be precise, it's got to be perfect. The doctor's looking at the patient and thinking what he needs to cut, and like robots are doing the work.
Yes.
Like that right there,
a precision cut.
You know, that you could, it's like that a human couldn't make. You know what I mean? Like our hands wouldn't be good enough, or
not steady
dangerous work. Yeah, like dangerous work that we have to go and do in horrible environments. Transmission of us talking, communication, right, during space flight. So many things. This science can do so many things because you can beam it over the internet.
Yeah, if you push the science, like the potential is insane. The potential is absolutely insane. We got Shut Up Eric coming through in chat. Not sure what that's about, but there we are.
All right.
Cool, I guess. Anyway, unless Matt meant to send that in Eric. I don't know. But speaking of a potential good investment about being able to like read people's minds quite literally, we're going to a more questionable investment, and that's the buying of UK game retailer game, creative name I know, by Newcastle United owner Mike Ashley. Now, this was a very interesting case because he's been wanting to do this for a while. Mike Ashley, for those who aren't aware, is a billionaire in the UK. He owns Game now. He also owns Football Club Newcastle United, Sports Direct, and House of Fraser. For some reason, he put a 52 million bid in and just took over Game. And it seems to be he wants to take Game down the direction of esports as opposed to actual games distribution, which is a very interesting take. Especially with the current games market in the UK right now, which is 80% digital. Though, we have to say... Yeah, we have to say...
digital, so...
It is 75% of AAA sales are still physical. So it's a weird little thing right now. And I've seen this in game shops as a person that lives here and has gone to Game. I don't like Game. Nobody likes Game. It's a very unpopular retailer. They tend to sell things at a bit of a dickish price. They don't really do fair discounts for like pre-owned stuff. There's even reports, I believe we actually have a report from Kotaku here from 2017, Lewis Packwood. Why does everyone hate Game? I'm going to leave you read those quotes right here to yourselves on chat because they're quite colourful. Nobody likes Game. Here's an example, the actual example I was thinking of. 2 copies of Breath of the Wild, one pre-owned, one brand new, the exact same price. Both $54.99. Yeah, it's a very unusual situation with Game, and the reason is because Game have a monopoly here, essentially, when it comes to the actual games market. For some reason, I don't know how they were able to get away with it. They
like
essentially...
the US? Is it like the US where GameStop can be the only game store, but because Walmart and like, do you guys have big box store retailers that still sell games?
Yeah, it's one of those weird situations where, because there's technically other places available that do sell games, they don't have a monopoly, but they do. They essentially bought out most of their major competition. One of the ones in my local town was called Game Station. They actually mention that in here, I believe. In one of these, they mentioned Game Station. And they bought out all their major competition, made them into Game. The only one that they didn't buy out eventually went out of business. Now we have CEX against them, which aren't technically competition because they're more of a second-hand retailer as opposed to a game retailer. They just tend to focus on games and electronics and that kind of good stuff.
Right.
And also, I'm just going to say CEX, not a good company either. I might get into that a different day because that's a rabbit hole of illegal activity. That's a deep rabbit.
Game buying problems over in. I'm sorry.
CEX is a rabbit hole of legal issues. Let me tell you. But
wow.
Yeah. So they, for some reason, Mike Ashley decided I'm going to buy Game and I'm going to kind of focus on esports. He does own a sports team in Newcastle United and a sports retailer in Sports Direct. So now owning a place which has been pushing esports recently via Belong, which is like the esports kind of like network that Game have been operating with to kind of make up for the lack of space in stores. So essentially, it's not profitable to sell as many games now that aren't AAA. So they've had to slowly limit the amount they have in stores. And what they've been doing is replacing that space which they now have empty with esports arenas, which is very clever. But it only works in certain areas, so a lot of them are just filled up with pop vinyls and Fortnite merchandise. It's a really weird situation now where you can go into a game store and you'll see everything but games. It's unusual. You have your video game sections, but you'll have peripheral section, merchandise section. Here's a section with mobile phones and tablets that have been sold to us for some reason. And they kind of push everything else onto you other than games now. And some of them just have the esports arenas to bring in like esports team and have these weird spectator events. I'm not too familiar with it. I only watch esports when I go to live shows, like conventions. So it's still a weird concept to me. But the gist of this story is a very controversial man that not many people like. bought a very controversial retailer, which nobody likes. And no one really knows what he wants to do with it or why he decided to do it. It's very strange. A lot of people are concerned about jobs more than anything because of the current situation with digital versus physical, as this game industry biz from Christopher Dring reports. It's a bit of a weird situation now where a lot of people are like in these lower income areas where there aren't many physical sales of AAA games like your FIFAs, which is a big seller here. Mm-hmm. Are these stores going to stay open, or are people going to lose their jobs? Is he going to combine his Sports Direct stores or House of Fraser stores with game stores now? Instead of having two stores with sets of jobs, that we're going to have one store with a set of jobs, thus eliminating more jobs. It's a lot of people are concerned about jobs. That's a very big concern in the UK right now. There's a lot of job loss going on. My dad, for example, and my father works in Ford's big factory. He works in the Ford factory in Bridgend. That was recently announced that it's closing completely next year, and all of the people there are being unemployed. They're being made redundant. It's a big situation, jobs right now. So that's everyone's major concern. And I know you did some reading up on this, so I was wondering what your thoughts were on this, because obviously this is a very UK-based thing. But because it was such a weird and like kind of potentially big scenario, I was wondering what you made of this, because I don't know what it's like in America, but I imagine it's not quite as weird as this right now. Because I know GameStop recently went up for sale too.
Well, GameStop already tried very hard to change its image and what it sold. I haven't bought a game at game. The last time I haven't bought a game at GameStop. I shop at GameStop all the time, and I haven't bought a game in a long time. I get their pops. Yeah. I get their collectibles. I go to GameStop because I can't go buy a game replica anywhere else.
Yeah, I haven't bought a game from Game again, creative name. I haven't bought one from there since before Fallout 4 came out, because Fallout 4 and a pre-order fiasco I had with that was dreadful. I pre-ordered Fallout 4 and was told I can't return the pre-order until the game's out, which is a lie, by the way. You can. I was just told I couldn't. Yeah. I was just told I couldn't. I wanted to return the pre-order. I was like, nah, I've changed my mind. Want to return my pre-order? I was like, you have to wait until the games come out. And then I was like, can you return it at any store? Does it have to be this one? They were like, any store. So I went to a different store. They were like, oh no, it has to be the same store. And I basically got sent in circles for a couple of months. And then I decided I'm not buying anything from you again, other than one Christmas present for my brother when I went to university. So, but yeah, it's a weird thing. But like, what did you make of this entire stupid situation?
I kept mulling over in my head. I'm like, is this a monopoly? Does he own the means of production? Does he own the retail space? Does he own, like, is he closing the market for himself, or is he going to have the esports team and then game is going to be the pro shop? Like, I was trying to see how. I definitely know that the impact. I wasn't aware of the impact that this would have on like what he's like everybody's least favorite millionaire.
Nobody likes
him. And it's weird because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look at this like an objective journalist because I'm coming in from the outside, and it's like the guy's a douche. Like there's no object. Even the most objective eye is like, this dude's scum. And I'm like, really?
He's very unpopular. It's like I don't watch I'm not a big football watcher. My brother is. He's currently not home. I don't know why I pointed to his room. He's not home, but I don't know why I pointed there anyway. As if he's like right there. He's like gonna burst through the door, like a musical or something. But no, he's. I know he's not very popular with his club, Newcastle. He's also not very popular with pretty much anyone else. He's not a well-liked man. And now he's buying this store, which everyone's had problems with for years. And it's like, bro, probably not the best decision for your reputation, I imagine. But then again, I'm assuming you don't care. So there we go.
What if he cleans up the store's act? Like, what if he cleans up their act? Like, what if he? I guess
it'd be a miracle if he did.
It'd be a PR. It'd be great for him for PR.
It'd be great PR for him, but I can probably imagine him trying to make some kind of exclusive deals. So the interesting thing here is, arguably the biggest selling game in the UK is FIFA, the football game, FIFA Soccer, I believe it's called, and he owns a football team in Newcastle United. So if the biggest selling game in the UK, for the most part, is a football game, and he owns the game store which has a monopoly and sells all the football games, or 75% of them, as the reports show, he can now go to EA, hey, make a deal where, like, my team looks better in these games, or maybe Newcastle gets an interesting edition of this game, or I won't sell your game. Or I might do different things with your game. He can, like, do that now because he owns them. He can be like, we're not going to do this now. I doubt he would, because it makes so much money, but he could. He could just be like, make my team look better. I'm gonna like make your game look bad. I'm not gonna advertise your game, not gonna market your game. I'll go to PES instead.
Is there a competing team? Is there a competing team in the same town or city or very close by, like an inter?
Pretty much in the UK, they're in the top division of football, so it's like the entire UK basically has teams all over in the top flight. One of them very close by, who is like a rival team. So
that's what I mean. So like they would, if he could, FIFA would be put in a very would be put in a very precarious position to be like, oh, we're going to put a special edition of the game just for your team, and everybody else would be like, what's that? What?
Yeah, it's an unusual situation now where he could be like, make my team look better than they are, to make more good PR for his team with the players of that game, who maybe support that, and maybe they forget that he's not a very popular man, you know. So, and like, not saying that he would do that. My guess is he's just going to try and push the esports thing and try and get into the esports business and fuck over an esports team like he fucks over Newcastle. But I imagine that's what's going to happen.
There's no, I've had a lot of conversations with you, Vivid, and you've made me feel like, okay, I got to be objective. Yeah. I can't come from an opinion side.
No.
I gotta look at there's no other side but Mike Ashley's a douche. Like there's no other side.
Not really.
It's hilarious when you talk about it, because it's like, you're just like, I'm a journalist and I'm reporting live on the next big shit moment for Mike Ashley.
Yeah, it's just like,
and I was like, Jesus.
You see this dude, and it's like, I could try and report this as neutral as possible, but I've seen, like, you see all the reports from the fans of his club, like you see the reports of just football fans in general and his reputation. The previous manager of that football club, which has now gone to China to manage, he wanted a bit more money to work on. He wanted more money for the club, essentially, to work on projects to make their team better and stand a better chance in the league, if that makes sense. He wanted more money to get better players, essentially. And like to be part of a project. They said no, so he went away to China. His first press conference, he basically spent like 9 minutes just talking about how terrible this dude was. You know, it's like, he is not a liked dude, you know, at all. I'm not even a sports fan, and I know how infamous this dude is. It's not great.
So like he understands that it's also, if you own a sports team, it's not just a cash machine that you have to put money into.
You have to put money into it again. Yeah, and he does, obviously he puts money into it, but he doesn't put the money into it that he probably should be putting into it at the level of that team. You know, they're a top flight team. They're essentially like, I'd say it's a bit weird because like leagues work a bit different in the US. But say for example, I'll use hockey because I know hockey the best out of all American sports. You have your NHL and then you have your AHL. Like these would be an NHL team. and he's not giving them the money that an NHL team should probably have most of the time.
Still bitter about the Bruins.
Yeah. Like this is just a weird situation. Obviously, we don't know what's going to make of it. Like everyone has opinions on this dude here in the UK. He's not a popular dude. It's so very strange. And I want to see what he does with this. I'm more concerned about the job side of things, to see how he goes, like, looks at the profits of stores and be like, well, this store isn't bringing in the money to keep it open. Get rid of it. That's jobs out the window, House of Fraser, if you, like, Google House of Fraser closing, there's reports of House of Fraser stores closing from last year. That was a big thing. Sports Direct, his main store, that closes all the time. You see ones closing down, moving to other areas and stuff like that. It's potentially concerning for what is pretty much our only game retailer here in the UK. It's rather concerning for that. But as the market changes, who knows? Maybe this is just an inevitable evolution, and they were going to go away anyway.
Well, even then, the big box retailers, like I was asking, okay, Best Buy does a pretty good job. Best Buy in the US was doing a pretty good job of being a video gamer, and then they just did away with it. I go to Best Buy for most of my electronics. I don't buy video games from them, but I do buy, like, if I want a Wi-Fi router, if I want something like that, I go to Best Buy to buy it, just because I know it's going to be there. I can go pick it up at the store. It's cool.
We actually don't have too many of those.
They're not a game store. We
have two major supermarkets, which are kind of like the second tier, I suppose, when it comes to physical game sales. You have Tesco, which is one of our major supermarkets, or Asda, or Walmart, as America would know it. It's the same store. We just don't call it Walmart. They also sell video games, but those video games, like, sections have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller over time. And essentially, games just the only place which is just like, we're a game store, and everyone else is like, we're a store that sells games. But Game are like, we're the game store. It says game. It couldn't be more obvious. Come buy our games. But only the AAA ones, then buy a Fortnite shirt or a pack on the way out. It's fine. It's, I'm actually hoping more than anything out of this is that Mike Ashley, and this is to give him some praise, as much as he's an unpopular man, he is a very smart man with his money. He is very intelligent. He knows what he's doing with his money. He knows how to make investments. And whilst the game physical market is down and AAA is still pretty high, so that's arguably a good investment, because that's what most games are sold anyway, AAA. You also have the growing esports side to game. They own Belong, which is the esport thing, and that's growing. So he could potentially get invested into the esports side of things, which could change a lot here in the UK if we had some real, like, money and a mind for, like, owning sports teams, running an esports team. That could change quite a lot here, and that's a really interesting potential positive to this, is how it ups the esports game that we have here. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But I could see him potentially being like, there's something to this esports stuff. I'm gonna try and make this a big deal. I could see him being the guy to do this, and that is to his credit. Like, he's clearly seen something he's wanted out of this, because he went for them before. I believe he had. I believe it says here, like he has a majority now. I think he had like 16% of shares. Oh, sorry, it had 38.5% of the shares of Game, and now he's got the support of 16% of shares to buy it out, essentially. So I could see him being like, this is potential. Let me go in. Let me do my thing. But yeah, I feel like that's enough on that, honestly. We could be here all day, but at the end of the day, I want to keep this short.
It just sounds like somebody who makes smart decisions business wise and trims the fat, but the fat might be people's jobs.
Exactly. So he's like, it's some shady shit, to say the least. Moving on to the next. He does some shady shit. Not legally shady, just like morally shady, to clarify. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is from one shady boy to another shady boy. It's G2A. It's everyone's favorite game retailer. It's G2A. This one will probably go a bit longer than usual. We usually try to keep these to an hour and a half to those listening. This will probably go a bit longer just because there's a lot of news happening right now, and a lot of it I felt like needed to be talked about. G2A. For those who aren't aware, G2A is... I mean, I try to keep neutral when it comes to this stuff, but I'm very not neutral when it comes to G2A. I hate G2A.
I'm a bad influence because I'm from a news show, not a news program. I've completely destroyed VividChim's journalistic.
I've never been neutral when it comes to G2A. I've always hated them. So much so that I pretty much snubbed them at a live convention I went to. I was rude as fuck to them.
Oh my god, that's funny though.
Yeah,
at least you know what? That's integrity though. You can only be so biased until you're like
exactly. It's like
you're robbing people.
Yeah, you can only be so biased until you're selling illegal keys. So G2A, the grey market, that is G2A. This is from a journalist we spoke about last week on the show, by the way, when we talked about Dr. Disrespect versus Kotaku. This is from Kotaku. This is Nathan Grayson, the Angry Birds aficionado that me and Nomad Eric talked about. So it's nice to see we got a running theme this week. G2A are kind of known for being a bit of a shady place. There's not many security standards there. A lot of developers are pretty unhappy with it. A lot of gamers don't really like it. It's not a good place. I'm going to be completely honest here. People do not like G2A, and they have a good reason for not liking G2A. It's a really bad platform, and you should go get your games elsewhere. That's just 100% honesty.
Wasn't it in the news that some indie people said, yes, I would rather that you pirated my stuff than bought it up?
Yes, I believe one of the developers of No More Robots, I can't remember the name of the game, my apologies. I believe it might be in here. Yes, there we go.
I mean, that's big.
That is in here. This is a PC Gamer article. Nice of them to link to a PC Gamer article. Publisher Mike Rose noted down a search of his games placed G2A ads for them. So G2A placed ads for his game. We make zero money on our games if people buy them through ads, he said. He recommended people consider buying the game for G2A. Just pirate it instead. Pirate the games over buying it for GTA. He was straight up. It was like, just pirate my game if you're going to buy it for G2A. I'd rather it. I'm not seeing money either way. I'd rather they didn't get the money from it. So that's quite the hot take there, and that's from Mike Rose. But this week, that's like some little old news from last week. I believe it happened after we did the podcast, or maybe I missed it. Otherwise, I would have spoken about it because they're a big retailer who make a lot of money, sadly. But this week, they've sent out emails asking publications to post an unbiased article that they themselves had written without saying that it was from G2A, sponsored by G2A, for money. Now, before we get into some of the deepest situational of this, I want to clarify that this is illegal. This is actually illegal. You cannot be paid for something and not say you're not paid for it. Like, it can't. That is a sponsored post. You need to clarify that it is a sponsored post. That is the law. That is how these things work. And let's see if we get the screenshot of it. It's honestly incredible. Right. So it says, my name is Adrian, and I represent a global digital marketplace called G2A.com, all capitals. Our company is one of the biggest and most popular trading platforms in the world. It is a place where buyers and sellers of games and other digital physical goods meet to make transactions. I'm contacting you because I think your website matches our interests perfectly, and we would like to find out more about publishing and advertising opportunities that you can offer. At the moment, we're trying to improve our brand awareness and public image, especially among the indie and smaller game developers. Unfortunately, the majority of the public does not understand either our business model or how we try to make sure our customers can safely purchase digital products. We want to make sure people understand we do everything we can to support the gaming community, not the gaming community, just gaming community, and that we introduce every possible method to ensure every side is satisfied. Now, the next one for there is we have written an, in bold, unbiased article about how selling stolen keys on gaming marketplaces is pretty much impossible. And we want to publish it on your website without being marked as sponsored or marked as associated with G2A. It is a transparent and just review of the problem of the stolen keys reselling. Below I attach an expert at the article. If you want the full article, just let me know. Then I believe he goes on to say like there's pricing options are available. Like you can like discuss them. Oh yeah, sponsored post about disclosure. Is that even legal? It isn't. If you are interested in publishing the article, please provide me with the pricing details about your options for such content publication. G2A actually responded to this tweet. They were like, these emails were sent by our employee without authorization, for which we apologize. To some indie games and the 9 other media outlets he sent this proposal to. He will face strict consequences as this is absolutely unacceptable. Now, in my... looking at this from an objective point of view, maybe this guy did send this email out of his own, like, he was just like, do you know what? I'm gonna try my best, try my darndest to fix my company's reputation, damn it. I want people to realize that the people I work for, they aren't criminals, they aren't shady. And that is why I'm gonna suggest we break the law to all these people, okay? Looking at it realistically, I think this was a thing from G2A and they just threw their employee under the bus.
Yeah, like how would somebody do this sort of thing completely on their own without the knowledge of anybody? Like, did he do this because, well, what about this scenario? He's disgruntled. Right. He's a disgruntled employee.
Okay.
And they're screwing their employees as well as...
So you're saying it was an inside job to try and like deface them even more?
Yeah, like he's mad because they're screwing. He works long hours. They treat him like shit. So he put this out there. That guy sabotaged G2A. I like
it. Adrian, the saboteur of G2A. I love it.
A lone wolf? Is he some kind of lone wolf? Like, come on, no. He went like, yeah, this guy, the job. Shitbag game store as our that he's gonna go out on a limb here and risk. He's really gonna risk like any sort of actual problems for G2A. Is he even a shareholder? He's just some dude that works and he's gonna risk his freedom. I don't think so. I think he did that on purpose.
He was just there and he was like, I'm gonna take these guys down for what they did to me. He's just like smoking a cigarette as he's typing it out in a dimly lit room.
They took his fifth. He tried to take his. They've denied his 5th vacation request in like a year. You know what I mean?
He's just like, he's these sons of bitches. They'll see. You don't fuck with Adrian. And he's just like...
when he punches in and then goes to get breakfast, they yell at him. You know what I mean? Like little stupid shit.
So my favorite part about this is just like, we have written an unbiased article about how selling stolen keys in gaming marketplaces is pretty much impossible. Yes, you know it's unbiased because it was written by you, because that's how bias works. We've written a completely honest and unbiased. This is like EA levels of self ignorance.
I know we've analyzed our mechanics and we find that they're just fine.
Yeah, it's like we've done some research and we think it's okay. It's like, what? No. Like, also the company did respond and says, it'll pay this is to the controversy last week, by the way, about the saying pirate our games instead of buy them on G2A. G2A responded and said it'll pay developers 10 times the money they lost on chargebacks after their illegally obtained keys were sold on G2A, but only if they can prove such a thing actually happened. Here's the thing, you can't prove it actually happened because that shit is impossible to track. Because do you know who holds the information? G2A. Will G2A be like, yeah, here's this information proving we should give you 10 times the amount? No. They're not gonna do that.
No, they wouldn't even make a statement like that unless they knew that they would maybe have to do 2 of them.
That is one of those PR statements. That's one of those PR statements where it's like, well, nothing's gonna happen, so it's kind of ridiculous. But yeah, G2A, man. Like, let's send out an email. Let's get let's get 9 of these goddamn publications to write good things about this, and we'll pay them. But we won't say we've paid them. They won't say we've paid them either. But they'll just say it as if it was a natural thing. Granted, I don't know what they were expecting about this. If this was a genuine thing from high ups, sending it to 9 people, what would they expect if they sent the same article to 9 people to post, and more than one of them accepted? How are they going to explain that if the same article appeared on 2 different websites, exactly the same verbatim? Like,
they thought they were figuring that it's kind of like where if you work in a sales job in retail, they tell you to ask 10 people because only one of them's going to say yes.
It seems to be one of those things where it's like I don't think they thought that all the way through. When it was like, oh yeah, here is the full article. Just post this on your website. Don't make any amendments to it. Just post it because it's completely unbiased. We know we wrote it. Completely unbiased. Now, I know what journalism is, and I know that a lot of journalism these days is done because you get a press release in, you write up the press release, and then you put it out. This isn't even that. This is, here is an article, post it. This isn't even like this is our statement on recent things. This is like write an article about it, essentially. This is them being like, here is the stuff we want you to say. Say it. And we will give you money. But don't say we've paid you to do it. Just do it.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
It makes no sense.
It's like they knew that it would create a buzz. Because this kind of story, it makes sense like for them to be like, let's use infamy as advertising. Let's people are going to be so curious about how much like that people heard were shit. Now they want to come sniff. You know what I mean? They're gonna go look.
Yeah.
They want to see it. They're like, oh, there's a car crash. Everybody look, and nobody can look away.
My favorite part about this, to be completely honest with you, is just like they thought this wouldn't like backfire. They clearly were like, what could go wrong? It's like, how could this damage our reputation even more? And also, I just want to clarify: if you are a publication out there and you took this offer, whoever took the offer needs to be fired because they're not a journalist. They should be fired because they're not a good journalist. They're not a good representative of your brand. They should be let go. And if you're like the head of that, you need to be replaced. You can't be doing that stuff as a journalist. You just can't. You can't be like taking money under the table.
It makes us look, because okay, there's a narrative, right? There is a very strong believed narrative that gaming journalism is all paid hype, and it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, I've been accused of it at my level. You say positive things about something that people don't like just because you happen to have a different experience with it, and then suddenly you're accused of being under the payroll of a AAA company. It's just like it's never that deep.
Everybody who's a gamer, anybody who buys the game, because they paid money for a game, they automatically have instant expert status.
It's
and then they'll say things like the gamers, journalists don't matter. The gamer's opinion matters. It does matter, but we play games too.
Yeah, it's like we don't just write these articles without playing the things associated with them, or at least
read the back of the box. This game looks cool.
Or at least, least in some cases, like if there's nothing to play, seeing stuff. We don't just do this with no context. We also don't do it when we're paid to do it, unless it's a deliberate thing to sponsor something, and even then you need to clarify that it is, because that's the law. So it's like you can be a journalist and get paid by a company to write something. The issue is when it's like, write this and be completely honest about it. At that point, it isn't journalism, it's an advertisement. And that's the issue with it. Like, I know companies are paid to like showcase games, but most of the time they'll just showcase a game. Like a lot of games critics do sponsorship deals with companies involving games, but they will also clarify at the start of a video, for example, and be like, hey, this is a sponsored video. And second of all, if they are usually a critic, they'll probably change up the format a little bit to make it a little like more obvious that it's like, hey, take this with a grain of salt if you want to, So it's like
hey, this is an information section.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you my personal opinion, but this is the game. This is what you can do in the game. These are the features, that kind of thing. Not like I've
always personally said, if I were to ever get someone offer me money to review a game, I would take the money but not review the game. I'd just show the game. It's like I've made that I've made my stance on that very clear. It's like as soon as money is involved, I'm not critiquing anything. I'm just showing it off and saying what it is. I'm not saying whether it's good. I'm not saying whether it's bad. I'm just saying, here is a thing. This is what it does. And I've always made that very clear. It's like, as soon as money's involved, I'm not interested.
It's easy. In a critique it's easy to talk about a game and just say, you do this stuff in it, and you shoot this, and you go here, and you save that person, and that's it.
Oh dear. It's you gotta love G2A and the absolute blindness to their own ignorance. It's kind of great. I kind of love it, but I also kind of hate it. It's like, it's the same with EA. It's like, I hate everything you do, EA. But I also kind of love how you believe yourself that much. It's great. It's like
you have to form a cult of belief around what you do, so that
it's like you're so deep you believe that you're right, and I kind of love it. Okay, and that's kind of just all the headlines. We did have some other ones, but the Switch kind of took over that, and we already had some big ones. So we're gonna go on to the next segment now. That was a solid 40 minutes of news. That's a lot of news. We're going to go into the next segment now, which is the games we play. This is the segment where my guest brings a game and we discuss all things about that game, their enjoyment about it. It means a lot to them, whether it's a new game, a game from their childhood, something they've enjoyed recently, something that they grew up with. It could be absolutely anything. And this week we actually got the newest game that we've covered so far, and probably going to be the newest game we cover for a while on this show, I imagine. So, Greg, why don't you tell everyone what we will be discussing here today?
Well, I've decided to talk about a game that I actually enjoy, that I'm enjoying right now, that has gone through much improvement, and it's Fallout 76.
I can hear the screams.
I was waiting for yeah. I was somebody's gonna throw something at me.
I can hear the screams of anger already. So yeah, Fallout 76. Now, obviously I have my thoughts on this game. I made a review on it on launch day because Bethesda Net broke and gave me the game a day early. Thanks, Bethesda Net. I got an early access copy. I technically got a review copy because their service fucked up and gave it to me before I should have it. So that was cool.
Nice.
So that really helped my thing. So yeah, why don't you tell us a bit about your experience with the game, maybe from launch? Because obviously it was a very controversial game at launch. When I did the review on it, I actually didn't have many issues with the game until after I did my review. Then some of the problems started to appear, which kind of sucks. But at the same time, I'm not going to be like, hey, I was wrong. I reviewed it at the time. Those were my thoughts at the time. I stand by them. Have they changed since?
It's accurate.
Yeah, but hey, it's one of those things. So why don't you tell me about how you came across the game, when you first got to experience the game, what your first impressions were, and what really stuck with you as a player of games as well as a person who reports on them.
Well, I've always been a Fallout fan. I like sci-fi, like RPG. Played all the Bethesda games. Fallout, I've played every single one. I'm that person that when Fallout 4 came out, I was like, give me the DLCs. I'm that person where Fallout's my favorite band, and if the band recorded themselves all fucking I would still buy the album because I love it. So that's why you never see me do a review on the game, because I'm biased. I'm blind, but I'm not blind to the problems that the game had or the criticisms that it received, because a lot of it was true. It should have been a more done game, and I get what happened, and there's stuff that's unforgivable, but it's not the same game it was at launch. It was a one-dimensional play Fallout with your friends online. Now it's 3 different game modes. It's vast improvements. It's new things to do. It's constantly evolving. It's nothing like the beta at all. And I was in both betas, so it's completely like it's like I had 10 things to do, and now I have 200 new improved. It's thousands of improvements. They just kept going.
Now, I've actually not played this pretty much since December last year, because I obviously did my review on it. I continued playing it a bit after, but as soon as the issues that had plagued everyone else started to plague me as well, I kind of like me and my friend faded off it. We played it a lot. I got nearly to like a level of 100 or something. I got pretty high. But we slowly started to fade off. We moved on to other games, and obviously as soon as you move on to other games, it can be difficult sometimes to bring yourself back in. And especially when the game did admittedly have problems. One of them was addressed earlier this year, but I'm sure we'll get on to that. But yeah, the game has had a lot of updates since December. They got a roadmap. We also have updates coming up, which we will touch upon. So what really has changed since launch? You know, like what is there in the game right now, which is like, you know, this has been improved. Maybe some things that potentially haven't been improved. You know, but like what's some of the things that could really bring someone who maybe bought the game and was kind of jaded by its situation? What could bring them back now?
Well, it's okay. You have adventure mode, you have survival mode, which is more PvP like centered, but you can live there, and you actually have nuclear winter, which is Fallout's take on what a battle royale would be.
We will be getting to that.
By the way, I'm not a big Fallout battle royale fan at all. I tend to be a graphics person when it comes to shooters, because I think, and I played them all, you know. And I really like my shooters to have realistic graphics, things like that. But this game, the way it handles BR is completely different. It's a different experience, more rewarding earlier too.
I heard that it was actually like a rather decent take on Battle Royale, which actually surprised me when I read up on it, because I can't remember whether I actually tweeted this, because E3 is one big blur to me. It's kind of like one really like hard bender, where it's like loads of drinking, you know, you go partying one night and you remember none of it the next day. That's E3, except for one night it's a week. And I just remember nothing about that week about 2 days after it's over. So I can't remember whether I tweeted or I read it on a article that I did, which was like the ups and downs of the highs and lows of E3. And Bethesda... I basically said that Bethesda made me want to re-download 76 and then never download it again within 30 seconds or a minute. When they showed the NPC trailer, which we will touch on a bit later, NPCs coming to the game, which was my major criticism.
Wastelanders.
Yeah, that was my major criticism of the game when it came out. Is like NPCs could have just been in this game. It wouldn't have made much of a difference. They'd have probably been fine.
It makes sense, but now that the storyline is happening,
yes, I'm glad they added a story to it, which I'm glad of, and I can't wait to actually play a bit more of that, because at least they actually have a reason, like, to have people coming back now, as opposed to them just being there. It's cool. But there was always something where when I played it, I was like, you know, they could have just had people. It's like, it's quite easy to tell a player and an NPC. That was just something like, it was like, it's not hard to tell the difference, you know. It's like you could easily do it, but yeah, that was the main thing. And then they announced the Battle Royale mode, and I was like, oh, you've just spent all this time. Like Todd Howard, about 2 minutes before this, was like, we have a PvP mode, we have a PvP like survival game where people give each other shit rather than kill each other, and then was like, here's a battle royale mode. And I was like, that makes no sense. But there we are. You know,
funny, yeah.
I've heard it's really good. I've heard that it's kind of actually brought people back into the game that were kind of once a bit jaded on it. Like, it's brought some people back, being like, okay, like this is like the kind of like re-gateway drug, I suppose, into this game, because it's something everyone knows. You know, everyone's played at least one battle royale mode in something, because it's everywhere. So they've all played at least one. So like maybe if they've played 76, it's like, oh, you know, this is kind of cool. It's like, I'll see what else the game has to offer, and then maybe going in. I saw one picture online. I believe you retweeted it, because you retweet a lot of pictures of 76. It was a it was like a goat, like a sheep squatch thing.
Yes, the sheep squatch.
It's like a new kind of villain. Is that like a questline thing? Because I don't know anything about it since
in the game. In the game, there's a lot of cryptids, of cryptids, and a lot of that is West Virginia. It's actually native. It's real legends in West Virginia, and the sheep squatch there's this really cool quest line where an assaultron is they're testing assaultron robots. Okay. So they dress it up as the sheep squatch to fool people, but the real sheep squatch shows up.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually funny. It's like you go through this quest line and you think, oh, the sheep squatch is fake, and then there's an event where you have to like guard these different Brahmin, and the sheep squatch comes and tries to kill him, and you got to keep him alive. And there is literally so much to do since you played it. I can't even be. It's like trying to explain. It's like a customer coming in who has like the generation 6 of a phone, the phone's now on generation 11, and they want to know what's.
You'd love me. I'm still using a Samsung S7. I'm always like 3 gens behind.
Those are good. Those are still viable devices.
Yeah. I'm always 3 gens behind on phones, and then I upgrade.
3 is good. 3, it's the 6 and 5 year gap people where you're like, well, tell me what's new, and you're like,
everything.
There's literally 3,000 improvements. It's like I can't sit here all day.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, 76. I was trying to get because you built Fallout 76 haunted attraction.
Yes, I did. I don't know if I mentioned that in the review. I can't remember if I ever mentioned that in the review, but the first thing I did when I played 76 is I tried the building mode. It was one of the first things I did, because in Fallout 4, I hated the building mode. I thought it was terribly done. Like, mostly the UI. I thought it was almost unusable. It was awful to use. And I get like
spinning
people enjoyed
and stuff.
And like you couldn't like exit a menu whilst in a building and stuff like that. You couldn't go back. You had to like look out of a window to go back out of a menu, stuff like that. There was all this really annoying stuff that was like, it just made it unusable for me. And I was like, I absolutely hate this. So when I heard it was a big deal in 76, I was like, okay. And then I gave it a go and I was like, this is great. I was like,
streamlined.
They literally improved everything they needed to improve about this goddamn system and made it fun. So I was like, cool, that's absolutely fantastic. And one of the first things I did is I found these shacks, which are quite near Vault 76, and they're like haunted shacks. They're not really. There's like a speaker that you can find in the woods, which is making all like the spooky sounds and shit.
And you can mess with it. It's like you can see other players going over there, and you can flip them on.
Yeah, you can like mess with other players and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So what I did is I made a ghost shack and started telling ghost stories to other players, just as a bit of a meme in the beta. And it was like this like thing where it was like this this like little terrible wooden shack, and I'd be dressed up as a park, like the ranger outfit, like the camp counselor outfit that they had. I would dress up like that with this like shaggy like meth head beard essentially, and I'd approach people crouched down and be like, hello there, do you believe in ghosts? And I'd like lead them back to the cabin and give them a tour of the cabins just because it was kind of funny. And that was one of the funniest things I've ever done in a game, is just approaching random people in this game that people didn't know whether they liked, and be like, excuse me, gentlemen, do you believe in ghosts? And then like luring them back to this creepy ass house in the middle of a road and being like, come explore. I found that really fun. And But yeah, they've done like a lot of stuff since then. I tried to play it recently. I had internet problems at the time. Haven't tried it since then. I do need to try it. Hopefully, my connectivity to the servers is fixed. Fingers crossed, because I do actually want to play it
on PC. I love it so much that I will buy it on PC and play with you. Like, that's how much I love that. I seriously love the game. So in Fallout 4, I would build these extravagant camps and cities and things like that, and be like, look at this video. Now I can build something and people. There's camps and
I was gonna say that was one of the and we will touch upon like the camps and stuff a bit later on when we get into the shilling segment, obviously. But one of the extremely interesting things like that I've seen now is the fact that you can just have vendors. Like you can you can like have vendors and essentially just create like a little marketplace for other people to come buy stuff. I think that's awesome. Yep. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And honestly, it's something which you see now and it's like, why wasn't this here to begin with? You know, it's
they let us be player vendors. Yeah. And I would build like two-way service windows using a door and a window wall. And I could trade through the window, but I couldn't get shot through it. So it was actually cool. But these vending machines, you can do the vending machines and the trader. The vending machines are so cool. You can just be off adventuring and people are buying stuff from you, and it's very cool. You don't have to be there to sell.
I tested it out. I rebuilt my ghost shack because I had one in the what's it called? It's like the end game zone. It's like the Cranberry area. I think it's called Cranberry Glade or something.
It's Cranberry, the bog. Cranberry bog.
Yeah. I like very pretty location. Not my favorite location in that game, but I had a house there because I was at the end game. But I moved it back to the Ghost Shack because the Ghost Shack's the favorite one that I've done. Is really funny. So I started rebuilding that again, and there was someone across the road from me on the other end, and they had like vendor sap, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I kind of like this. One thing that I did want to mention is like what's improved. We've also got my review of the game on right now. The actual How Bad Can It Be review. Like we've got loads of updates coming up, and for those who maybe aren't aware, is like what's some of the updates that are coming up right now? You know, what are some of the major like they had some quest updates, something about a vault, like some of the vaults. Did they ever open any of the vaults? Was that a thing that they did?
There's Vault 51 is the vault where the nuclear winter has its own lore.
Yes,
and it makes sense about why it's part of the game. It's an AI named Vox is testing them to see who's strong. So that's what the battle royale is about. But there's a bunch of vaults that I think they've been saving because with the humans coming back, it's going to change. It's going to be factions like that.
Oh yes, that makes sense.
I've been to. There's 2 dungeons. There's basically the place called the Burrows. There's the Arcos Labs, our pharmaceutical lab. There's a bunch of instances where you go in and you can farm, but everything's got lore. There's a holotape. There's a letter. There's just everything. Everything connects and has a reason for being there. It's not just go do this. There's quest lines that intertwine with each other so that you feel like it's a more connected, more cohesive world that you're in.
Yeah. And speaking of the world, I mean, I think I mentioned this in the review. I can't remember if I did. It was a long time ago, people. I can't remember what I said back then. But I do remember my thoughts at the time, and it's still with me. I think Fallout 76 is the best map out of any Fallout game, in my opinion. It's very varied. It's a very beautiful map. My favorite one is the marshland. It's like the dark gray top right area. I can't remember the names of any of these places, by the way. It's like all these marshes.
Somewhere near the Savage Divide, the Mire. The Mire you're speaking.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's it's like all like swampy with these like red vines appearing out. Yes. That's one of my favorite like landscapes I've seen in any video game I've ever played. I remember stumbling across that. Yes, it's incredible. Like, I remember stumbling across it with my friend and being like, God damn, this is amazing. I was like, holy crap, this is such a cool area. And we actually spent most of our time in there because it was cool. But we have a major update coming up. We have the Wastelanders update, and for those who don't know what that is, could you give us a rundown about what this Wastelanders update is and what it will be doing for this game?
There's going to be probably about maybe 3 or 4 patches before it even gets here, because there's literally a patch. There's like a patch every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And that's why it's great. Like, you get new stuff, you get update Atom Shop. Wastelanders is that the guys came out of the vault. We followed our overseer's path. We did everything. We launched nukes, and this is it. We did such a good job that rumors were flying around about people thriving and living in Appalachia. So the humans came back, and basically the humans come back with, there's going to be skill trees. They're going to be Fallout New Vegas style skill trees.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
that's pretty cool.
We're getting, not skill trees, I mean conversation trees.
Yeah, dialogue trees.
Yeah, and it's gonna be great. Like, I can't wait to mess with some good old NPCs again. But like, you don't understand how many human NPCs I've met. Like, it was great. Like, people who, because their area chat is some of the best in-game chat I've ever seen. If I was at my
chat,
camp, yeah, you're at your camp, right? And you can hear. It's audible.
So sorry, yes, in-game voice chat. Sorry, I thought you meant a text chat for some reason.
The closer you get to somebody, the better you can hear them. So, like, you play music in real life on your microphone. People, the closer they get to your camp, the louder the music. And we have radios now that play like a variety of songs that will just play in your camp.
Oh, really?
To kind of get people to come to you and stuff.
They need to really if one of these updates that they do, they need to add a radio station where you can just do like live radio broadcasts through your microphone and have people tune in. I think that would be absolutely hilarious. Like,
it would be abused.
It would be absolutely abused, but I think it would be so funny.
It would be so bad. They can't do that. I would love it, but
I think it'd be so funny. Like, just seeing, like, it would probably last a week at most, but I'd love every single second of it. Just like tuning in and just listening to some people and being like, what the hell are these people talking about, you know?
I mean, there would people would consciously take advantage of it.
Yes.
Do really awesome stuff. Would be like I think the amount of awesome would happen first, but you would just idiots screaming on a mic.
Yes. Like, I'd love to see, like, if they ever did something like that. Like, because you could do some, like, cryptic stuff. You could do, like, number stations, stuff like that, you know? Like, do coded messages for, like, giveaways and stuff. I think that'd be dope.
That's cool.
That like, you could do some dope stuff with that, but obviously, people aren't all nice, so there's going to be some abusive shit going on there. Which is why we can't have nice things, sadly.
Yeah, but, I mean, there is a community behind Fallout 76 that is surprising.
Yes, and that is a good segue into our little next segment that we like to call a shilling in the name of. And this is where my guest and I both bring something to the table in which we can shill to our heart's content. Pretty much just something that we enjoy in life right now, something that we've been loving, something that we want other people to be exposed to. And Greg, yours actually involves Fallout 76 and yourself to a degree. So tell us what we got here.
Well, I am I host the weekly news show for the Wasteland Estates Homeowners Association, which is a Twitch channel and community, and they go to and eval them live on air, and they have a series of criteria to evaluate, and they either approve or violate it. They have a Patreon. They have agents that go out and do every day. They have talent shows, trivia or death, where you answer trivia questions, and if you get them wrong, the audience shoots you.
Fair.
They have, yeah, it's hilarious. They have talent shows. This is just one of many like awesome groups, but the Wasteland HOA, I do their news. Once a week, I put out a news show, and it's, by the way, that what makes this special, it happens in game.
Yes, it's all in game.
It's all in game. I brought a clip.
Yes, we're trying to get the clip up right now. It's being a bit of a pain, but there we
are. Okay.
No, don't try and open it in Discord. That's a horrible idea. Try and open it here instead. That'd be much nicer if you could do that for me, please. But yeah, I've seen you retweet these guys a lot. I've seen other people retweet these guys also. They seem to be a fairly large one in terms of 76. Hopefully we can get this video up and running. If not, do they have a YouTube potentially where we could do this? Maybe.
Well, they're a Twitch channel. They have a Twitch. They have a Twitch channel. They have a YouTube. My news. I don't think my news is on the Twitch channel. They might be on the YouTube.
I'll see if I can find the YouTube channel quickly, just because we seem to be having some issues on Twitter. Twitter video is a bit shaky sometimes.
Twitter. I think there's a I see that right there. Right there.
Let's have a look quickly. I'll just type in that, see if it comes up. You get to see some amazing stuff. Let's keep having a look at this.
It's all in game. Everything they do is filmed with in game camera. It's never. There's a lore behind the group. Supposedly, they snuck. They met Rose. And they distracted her while one of them climbed on the roof and tapped into the top of the world singing. But there's a whole lore behind it and why they do it. It's actually pretty cool.
I love it. I love that kind of stuff.
It's cool. They talk as if they are
in-game cameras. I just want to mention this because I forgot to mention it in that little segment about Fallout 76, and luckily we're still technically talking about Fallout 76. Photo mode. I love photo mode. It's great.
So good. I love photo mode.
It's my favorite part about that game. It's my favorite part about most games that have photo mode. It should be the current trend in video games instead of Battle Royale, in my opinion. That's my hot take. Because photo mode is great, and I love it.
There's a lot of games with photo mode that I'm like, why do you have photo mode?
Yeah.
But you know what? That's fine.
Yeah, it's like, I don't even care if it's necessary. Like, is it necessary in Spider-Man PS4? No. Is it great? Yes. I will take it.
Yeah, some of the pictures I've seen are hilarious.
Yeah, it's a great little thing. But yeah, they do they obviously, as you mentioned, they go around and they do like little things being like, hey, this is a certain like build, this is what it's meant to be, this is what it does, etc., and they like rate it, right? And it's like they talk about like the different builds, that kind of stuff. It's like I'm very only like adjacent because I see them on Twitter and that's about it. I've not actually read too much into them myself as of yet. But like, what other kind of stuff did I do?
You actually have a camera. That's what's funny about photo mode is you actually have a camera, a physical camera that you fix.
Oh, they added it.
Upgrade the lenses too. Yeah.
Oh, that's very cool. I didn't know about that.
It's
that's very dope.
This is they'll go ahead and they'll have these long. The servers fill up. They do in real life prizes. I'm a Patreon member because I joined to kind of see what their Patreon was like and what we could get. And you get T-shirts, you get caps, like real bottle caps, like stickers, the whole nine. Like it's that whole fun, cool vibe. But it's like you join them and they're like your friends. And they'll like, oh, you want to play with me sometime, blah, blah, blah. And they're super cool. Like, I can't... It's weird because you go and you find these groups that are part of your favorite game, and they end up being filled with not so many people that you like. And this is weird. I haven't met anyone in the group, agents or otherwise, who aren't, like, fucking nice. Like, it's weird, dude.
It is very weird when you come across like a gaming community and there's like minimal toxicity and you're like, well,
you gotta like look for it.
Yeah, it's like I'm not used to this. One of the interesting like things that I thought when I first heard about these guys, I was like, I wonder what they would make of the Ghost Shack.
They have a category called attractions and entertainment.
Yeah, I
They have
remember
different
when you
different
mentioned it, and I was like, if I ever like go back into this, I'd have to like submit the Ghost Shack to them as a bit of a meme, because the Ghost Shack just is just a meme. It's just a joke, but yeah, like these actually seem like they're doing some awesome work to try and like keep this game going. Essentially, a game that a lot of people like had given up on, myself included, honestly. You know, like I petered out on it and I kind of like moved on to the next big thing. The cycle continues and all that jazz. But it's kind of like nice to see these people keeping this game alive and like making sure like that Bethesda keep working on this game to bring it to where it could be and bring its potential. And clearly, from what we're seeing with these updates and the very promising future updates, like the Wastelanders one, which I think is going to bring a lot of people in, if I were to hazard a guess.
Yeah, free weekend.
Yeah.
Free weekend was crazy when they let
yes,
free weekend
I forgot
go,
they did that.
You know, there's so many new players. It's ridiculous now. Like I have people coming to my camp all the time and being like, hey, help me out. And it's like a level 2, level 3.
Yeah.
And they're not somebody's mule character. They're actually a new player.
It's interesting
really cool.
to see, like, that's the other thing. Like, the kindness in general with Fallout 76, even from launch, was incredible. Like, I remember I actually got this when I was recording footage on. I had 2 characters when I did the review. I had a level 20 something character, which I'd played through the beta, and then I had a brand new fresh character. And one of the first things that happened was some dude walked up to me, dropped a set of like a power armor frame, and walked off. So I had a power armor frame from as soon as I left the overseas camp. I was just like, here you go. And it's incredible to see how nice everyone is to each other. You know, like you see people on the street, they won't pull a gun on you. They'll just do the wave emote, heart emote, walk off, do their own thing, or potentially follow you if you're going the same way as them. It's just, it's nice, you know. It's just nice to see a community which isn't toxic. Who'd have thunk that a gaming community couldn't be toxic? It's incredible.
It's very pleasing. It's very cool. It gives me hope that a lot of other online games, be like there might be other online games that have the same flavor that kind of have something like that.
And now I have to think of something to show because, as you know, I'm like the consistent part of this. And to be honest, I like have to think of something to do every week, and there's only so many things that go on in my life. So eventually, I run out of stuff to talk about. But this week, I actually wanted to talk about a game that I bought recently, and that game is an early access game. I was actually going to do a review of it. I hope I can be on it to bring myself back, but I do have some other plans for that. And that game is a video game by Chinese developer. I'm waiting for the store so I can actually read their name out instead of trying to remember it because 1, I don't speak Mandarin, and 2, I haven't played it in a little while. It's a FYQD studio. So yeah, this is called if it lets me transition, thank you. This is actually called Bright Memory. It's a game by FYQD Studio made by one dude and then a few like little extra people, but the majority of it is just this one guy, and it's really fun. It's not a lot to it right now. They seem to be they've announced that they're making pretty much remaking the game into a full game as opposed to an episodic game that they were going to do initially. And it's this absolutely gorgeous like FPS hack and slash game. The best way to like put it, I described it to Eric the Nomad when I was chatting to him about it. It's like the gateway drug to hack and slash games, because I'm not a big hack and slash game guy, and they have like mechanics where you have like this light whip and stuff, and you just like whip these dudes and slash them apart. It's like it's a really weird game. I'm gonna put that out there.
First person perspective though, right?
Yeah, it's all from like a first person perspective as opposed to like your more traditional hack and slash perspective of like over the shoulder. Yeah, you know.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a very unique take. It like mixes like all these different kind of things. The dude's very Dark Souls inspired. In fact, there's actually a thing in this game where it's you come across a Dark Souls bonfire, like one of the bonfires you rest at, and you can actually activate it, and it has the Dark Souls text saying "bonfire lit." That comes up on screen. Cool little Easter egg there, showing some of his.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a little nifty thing. We'll say the translation, because it is, like I said, one dude from China. Not great. I believe he calls a dragon like a sky snake at one point or something. It's not great translation. Hopefully that is fixed when the full release comes out, but it's very promising. And I'm not usually one to vouch for early access. I think the early access system, whilst great on paper, is easily abused, and it's often abused, sadly, and it ruins the reputation of a lot of great games that have come out of it. But this one has a lot of potential. So if you are one who is willing to take risks with early access and potentially, like, want something that could be very cool, this is one that I'd say support, show that you want to see more of this game, and get like the full game to us, because holy crap, it is very promising and very impressive for one man. And I gotta give them that credit. It's not all clean. There is a controversy around it, which the developer actually admitted to, and I don't know whether he's since changed it. I hope so. He admitted to using assets from something. I think he pretty much stole some 3D assets, which isn't great, and you should never do, by the way. If anyone here is a developer or an aspiring developer, don't do that.
It's really just fun.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's not great. I don't know what he did it for. He never said. The post has since been removed, making me think that he might have fixed the issue now. I have my theories as to what it could be. I think it's one of the primary enemies you come across. One of them gives a Dark Souls vibe, the other one gives an ODST vibe from Halo. So it could be one of those. It could be something else entirely. I don't know at the end of the day. But hopefully it's fixed, and I just want to see this dude, who has admittedly owned up to it and said he's going to fix it and pay the developers he took the assets from as compensation for using their assets, which is a very honorable thing. He's said that publicly. So I want to see more of this game, and I just hope we get to see it very soon. But anyway, that is pretty much the wrap up of the show.
Where can we get it?
You can get it. Well, you can get it on Steam. I'm showing the Steam page. That's the only place I know where you can get it right now. But yeah, it's Steam Early Access. I just naturally assume Early Access means Steam, but of course it is everywhere else as well. It's usually I'm a Steam guy. So, yeah. But yeah. Anyway, that's what we're gonna. Well, that's what I'm shilling anyway. I needed to think of something. I'd played this recently, and it just popped into my mind, so there we go. That's a quick little shill on the game, which looks very promising. But that's what we have time for. We went a little bit longer than we expected, although we still kept the time pretty damn well, considering we had those technical difficulties at the start. We're only about 10 minutes over, so that's actually pretty good with all that news and that deep news as well. So, Greg, to wrap this up, why don't you shill yourself now? Tell all the lovely people where they can find you, what you do, all the different platforms, all that good stuff. Go.
You can find Gamer Redefined on Facebook. You can watch our stuff on YouTube. We're going to be streaming on Twitch and Mixer pretty soon. And you can follow us on Instagram for some little small updates to kind of small snippets of news clips. And, of course, Twitter. And all of it is Gamer Redefined.
Excellent stuff. And, of course, if you want to find me, you can find me on almost every platform via VividChim, whether it be an @ or a /. The only one which you can't is Instagram. You can follow me there at KaneHock, KaneHock. Now, if you want to find this show, obviously we have it right here on twitch.tv/VividChim. Give us a follow here. We do this every single Thursday with a different guest where we talk about their games and the news and just something that they enjoy. Just a little lovely time, about an hour and a half or an hour and 40 minutes if you're this week. Who knows? There might be more like this. There might not be. Give us a follow. If you, for some reason, want to give me money, hit that subscribe. Why not? We get a cool emote out of it. I'll put it in chat for those watching the little Twitch VOD. It's my face doing a little sigh emote. So there we go. Something a little bit lovely. If you don't want the live broadcast though, and you would rather watch a VOD form, you can find the video VOD over at youtube.com/VividChim. Or if you want the audio version right now, you can actually head over to castbox.com/VividChim. And but there we'll actually upload all the audio versions, including the previous two. We're using that instead of SoundCloud because SoundCloud has a 3-hour limit. So yes, for the two VODs, that is youtube.com/VividChim. You can give us a subscribe and hit that bell because subscribe does nothing anymore. Or you can go over to castbox.com/VividChim or search VividChim on the Castbox app, which is free on your phone. And you can find the VC podcast, give us a subscribe on there, and you can download them and listen to them on the go. As always, I've been Kane. Thank you all for listening. We hope you have a lovely weekend. Goodbye.